If you're over 60 in America, the numbers can feel a little frightening. Almost 1 in 4 Americans over 65 needs help with daily activities, while in Japan, it's closer to 1 in 10. So why can an 85-year-old grandfather in Tokyo still hike up a mountain, while so many 65-year-olds in the U.S. struggle just to get out of a chair? Is it really just good genes? Or is it something much more simple, like what they eat for breakfast, how they move, and the tiny choices they repeat every single day? In this video, I'll share the quiet Japanese nutrition and lifestyle habits that most American doctors rarely talk about, and how a few gentle changes to your meals and your mornings can help your legs stay stronger, your balance steadier, and your independence longer than you ever thought possible. After 60, most people are told the same thing. You're just getting old. Of course you're getting weaker. But that's not the whole story. What's really happening inside your body is something doctors call anabolic resistance. It sounds complicated, but think of it this way. When you were 30, your muscles were like a brand new car. Any kind of fuel would make the engine roar. After 60, that same car still runs, but it needs better fuel and a bit more of it to respond the same way. Your muscles aren't broken. They're just harder to convince. In simple terms, your muscles stop listening as well to the signal from protein. At 40, a small portion of protein might be enough to tell your body, build, repair, stay strong. At 70, you often need more protein, spread more evenly throughout the day, plus key nutrients like vitamin D and K2, just to send the same message. When that doesn't happen, your muscles slowly shrink, your legs feel heavier, and getting out of a chair suddenly becomes a workout. A Harvard report in 2023 estimated that many Americans over 60 are missing around 30 grams of protein a day compared to what their muscles actually need. Not because they don't care about health, but because no one ever sat down and explained to them how their needs change with age. Breakfast becomes just coffee and toast, lunch is something quick, and dinner is the only real meal, which means your body spends most of the day in the field, especially your muscles. In my own work, I've seen this pattern again and again.
Yeah. Yes,
I've met hundreds
really
of patients
is.
who proudly told me, I take my calcium every day, doctor, yet they still had fragile bones, frequent falls, and slow recovery after a simple trip or slip. It wasn't until we checked deeper that we realized they were missing something crucial, vitamin K2, the nutrient that helps calcium go into the bones instead of floating around where it doesn't belong. They were doing the right thing, but only halfway, and their bodies paid the price. Then there's the way our medical system is set up. In the U.S., we're very good at treating problems after they show up. Pain pills for joint aches, medication for blood pressure, surgeries when something finally breaks. In Japan, there's a stronger focus on preventing the breakdown in the first place, using food, daily movement, and small habits to keep muscles and bones strong, so they don't need as much rescue later. It's not that Japanese people are magically different. It's that their everyday choices quietly protect their strength. The small lesson here is this. If you're over 60 and feel weaker than you used to, it's not a personal failure, and it's not just bad luck with aging. Your body is simply playing by new rules. It needs better quality fuel, more consistent protein, and the right supporting nutrients, especially if you want your legs, your balance, and your independence to last into your 70-year-olds, 80-year-olds, and beyond. But even when we understand the science, there's still a big problem. The way we live in America often pushes us in the opposite direction. Fast breakfast, grab-and-go lunches, long hours sitting, and I'll start exercising next week can quietly undo everything your muscles are trying to hold on to. In the next part, we'll look at these everyday lifestyle traps and how a few gentle changes can stop them from stealing your strength. If you're living in America, it's not just your body that's aging. The culture around you is, in many ways, working against your muscles too. Most days, it starts the same way. You wake up pour a cup of coffee, maybe grab a piece of toast or a donut and call it breakfast. Lunch is something quick you can eat over the sink or in the car. By the time dinner comes, you're tired and starving. So that's the one big, heavy meal of the day. This grab-and-go pattern feels normal, but to your muscles, it's like asking them to run a marathon on fumes and then dumping all the fuel in at the finish line. When protein and nutrients arrive late, all at once, your body can't use them as effectively, especially after 60, when we already talked about anabolic resistance. Your muscles need steady, reliable support, not one giant meal that leaves you sleepy and overfull. Yet the American way of eating often does exactly the opposite. Long stretches of not enough, followed by more than your body can really handle. I think of Robert, a 72-year-old from Chicago I met a few years ago. For most of his life, he lived on what he called American convenience. Coffee and a muffin in the morning, burger and fries for lunch, pizza, or takeout for dinner. He worked hard, provided for his family, and didn't think much about food beyond is it quick? And does it fill me up? By his late 60-year-olds, he noticed his legs getting weaker. At first, he just avoided stairs. Then, he started using the handrail to pull himself up. One winter, he slipped on the ice outside a grocery store and couldn't get up without help. By 72, his doctor recommended a cane for safety. When we looked closer, it wasn't just age catching up with him. It was decades of low-quality fuel, long hours sitting, and almost no movement outside of walking the car and back. His muscles had been losing tiny bits of strength year after year. So slowly he barely noticed, until one day he did. Now compare that to a typical morning in Japan. Many Japanese adults and their 70-year-olds still sit down for a simple, balanced breakfast. A bowl of miso soup, some fish or egg,
a healthy
rice,
weight.
maybe a small serving of vegetables or fermented soy like natto. It doesn't have to be fancy, but it is intentional. They often spend 20 to 30 minutes actually eating, chewing, and starting the day with real fuel. Meanwhile, many Americans the same age finish breakfast in 3 minutes, often with more sugar than protein, and wonder why they crash by mid-morning or feel too tired to move later in the day. The difference isn't that Japanese people never get old or never get sick. It's that their everyday habits feed their muscles instead of slowly draining them. They treat meals as moments that matter, not just something to check off the list. I'm reminded of a 90-year-old World War II veteran, Al Caldwell. He grew up in a time when food was scarce, and every bite counted. Even in his late 80-year-olds and 90-year-olds who tell his grandkids, we were taught to eat like warriors. Every meal has a purpose. For him, that meant never skipping breakfast, making sure there was some kind of protein on his plate, and avoiding the habit of mindlessly snacking through the day. His legs weren't perfect, and he had his share of aches and pains, but he still moved with a quiet strength that surprised people his age. When I asked him what his secret was, he laughed and said, "I just never let my meals be an afterthought." The small lesson here is this: aging doesn't just happen inside your body. It happens in your schedule, your kitchen, and your routines. If your days are built around rushing, grabbing whatever is closest, and collapsing at the end of the day, your muscles will slowly mirror that pattern. But if you begin to treat your meals as tools for strength instead of just quick fixes for hunger, your body can respond at any age. Of course, knowing this is one thing. Changing a lifetime of habits in a busy American lifestyle is another. That's where a different way of thinking about food
lean
can help.
Forward, shifting
a gentle,
your weight over
Japanese
your firmly
approach
planted
that
feet.
teaches us not just what to eat, but how to eat with intention. In the next part, we'll step into that world through a beautiful concept called shokiku and see how its quiet wisdom can be brought into an ordinary American kitchen. In Japan, there's a quiet word that shapes the way many older adults eat and age: shokiku. It roughly means food education, but it's much more than a school lesson. It's the idea that every meal teaches your body something about strength, balance, energy, and even your mood. I once heard it explained through the story of Mrs. Tanaka, an 83-year-old woman living in Kyoto. Her apartment is small. Her knees are not as young as they used to be, but every morning she moves around her kitchen with a calm, steady grace. On her table, a small bowl of miso soup, a bit of fish or tofu, some rice, a few pickled vegetables, maybe a sprinkle of seaweed. Nothing huge, nothing fancy. When someone asked her why she still takes the time to prepare all this at her age, she smiled and said, "We don't just eat to stay alive. We live so that each meal has meaning." That's shokiku. It's not about a strict diet or counting every calorie. It's about asking, what is this meal doing for my body, especially as I get older? For people like Mrs. Tanaka, every plate is a small decision to stay on her feet a little longer, to keep her legs strong enough to visit the market, to meet friends, to climb the temple steps once a year. So what does that look like in practice? Especially if you live in America and not Kyoto? One simple way to bring shokiku into an American kitchen is to stop thinking of dinner as the only real meal. After 60, your muscles respond better when protein is spread throughout the day instead of packed into one big plate at night. Instead of one heavy dinner, imagine 4 gentle anchors of protein. A little at breakfast, a little at lunch, a small snack, and a reasonable amount at dinner. It might be as simple as Greek yogurt or eggs in the morning, a bit of chicken, tofu, or beans at lunch, a small handful of nuts or edamame in the afternoon, fish, lean meat, or lentils at dinner. Nothing extreme, just steady support all day long. But in many American homes, especially when cooking for older parents or grandparents, there's a common pattern. We add more salt so they can taste the food, but we forget to add protein. So their muscles can use it.
Thank you very
Soft
much.
bread, mashed potatoes, soup from a can, crackers, sugary drinks. They're easy to chew and easy to serve, but they don't give the body what it needs to stay strong. The flavor might comfort the tongue, but the muscles stay hungry. Martha, a 76-year-old from Portland, was a perfect example of this. Her American breakfast was the same for years. Coffee with cream, orange juice, and either toast with jam or a bowl of cold cereal. It felt light, simple, and familiar. But by late morning, she was exhausted. Her legs felt unsteady, and she often needed to sit down after just a short walk. Her doctor suggested another medication, but deep down, she wondered if there was another way. A friend of hers had spent some time in Japan and suggested trying a more Japanese-style morning. Nothing complicated, just more intentional. At first, it sounded strange. Soup for breakfast? She joked. But she was willing to experiment. They started with a very simple version. A small bowl of miso soup from Instant Paste, easy to find at many grocery stores. A scrambled egg, a slice of whole grain toast, and a few frozen edamame beans warmed up in a microwave.
Then he said he couldn't find his
Still
glasses.
coffee,
Oh, Linda, that
still
is exactly
familiar,
what happened
just with
last
more
week.
purpose.
You must tell that
After
story
2
again
weeks
at
of
the
this
gathering.
American-Japanese fusion breakfast, Martha noticed something surprising. She wasn't crashing at 10 a.m. anymore. Her legs didn't feel quite as heavy when she went out for her daily walk. She felt just a little more there in her own body.
Perfect.
Over time,
You did a great
she began
job.
to ask herself before
Yay,
each
we
meal,
did it. It
where's
looks
my
yummy.
protein? Where's my strength on this plate? That simple question changed the way she cooked for herself. The small lesson of shokiku is this. You don't have to move to Japan or cook complicated recipes to age with more strength. You just have to start seeing food as a daily conversation with your future self. Every meal can either whisper, stay strong a little longer, or shrug and say, we'll worry about it later, in your own kitchen. That might mean adding an egg to your soup, sprinkling tofu into your salad, choosing edamame instead of chips, or turning breakfast from coffee and toast into something that actually feeds your muscles. It's not about perfection. It's about intention. And the beautiful part is, you don't have to guess where it began. The Japanese have been quietly using certain foods for decades to support their hearts, bones, and muscles well into their 80-year-olds and 90-year-olds. Foods you can now find in many American stores. In the next section, we'll look at 3 of these Japanese superfoods and how you can easily bring them into your own life without feeling like you've moved to a completely different country. When people hear the word superfood, they often think of something exotic, expensive, or hard to find. But some of the most powerful foods for aging well in Japan are simple,
I know it looks a little
humble,
different,
and
but trust
already
your
sitting
mother.
in many American
it's a modern
grocery
twist
stores.
on the old family
Let's
recipe,
talk about 3
and
of
it's
them
surprisingly
and
delicious.
how they can fit into a very normal American life. The first one is natto. If you've never heard of it, natto is fermented soybeans. In Japan, it's been a breakfast staple for generations. It's rich in protein, fiber, and a special enzyme called nattokinase that's been studied for heart and blood vessel health, especially in older adults. Now, let's be honest.
I know it looks a
Natto
little
has
different,
a strong
but trust your
smell
mother.
and a
It's a
sticky
modern
texture.
twist on the old
The
family
first time many
recipe, and
Americans
it's
try it,
surprisingly
they
delicious.
wrinkle their noses and think, no way. That's exactly what happened with Daniel, a 67-year-old retired engineer in California. His daughter, who had lived in Japan, begged him to try natto for the heart and circulation. The first spoonful was not a success, so they got creative. Instead of eating it plain over rice, they stirred a small portion of natto into a bowl with a little peanut butter and honey, then spread it on whole grain toast, like a slightly funky, nutty spread. It looked familiar, smelled sweeter, and tasted far better than he expected. Over
Go ahead,
time,
put 'em in slowly.
natto went
That's
from
it.
strange foreign food to that heart-friendly spread
Wow,
I have
look
twice
at
a
it
week.
bubble.
Researchers at universities like UCLA have looked at fermented soy foods like natto and found promising benefits for cardiovascular health in older adults. You don't need to become a scientist to understand it. Just know this. Natto is like a tiny, powerful package for your heart, your circulation, and your muscles. If you find a way to enjoy it that works for you. The second superfood is one you may already know,
Loop it once,
miso soup.
then twice.
Miso is a fermented soybean
that.
paste
I
that
think I
becomes
got
a
it.
warm,
Good.
comforting
That nod will
soup
hold.
in almost every Japanese home. It brings gentle protein, beneficial bacteria for your gut, and a soothing, salty flavor
Welcome
that
home, my
feels like a
dear.
hug in a bowl.
It fills
good
my heart
news?
to see you.
You don't have to fly to
I'm
Kyoto
so
to
happy
get it.
to be here with
Stores
everyone.
like Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, and many local supermarkets carry in some miso packets or tubs of miso paste in the refrigerated section. All you need is hot water, a spoonful of miso, and maybe a few extras like tofu cubes, green onions, or seaweed if you feel adventurous. For many American seniors, miso soup can be a simple upgrade to their day.
Oh, you really
Instead of a can
shouldn't
of
have.
salty, low-protein soup,
That
a
sounds
small bowl of
wonderful.
miso with tofu
We
can become a
miss you
gentle,
too, darling.
muscle-friendly snack or starter. It's especially powerful at breakfast, when your body is waking up and your muscles are ready to use protein to repair and rebuild. The third superfood is perhaps the easiest of all, edamame. Edamame are young soybeans, usually sold frozen in pod or shelled. They're high in protein, fiber, and minerals, and they're incredibly easy to prepare. A few minutes in boiling water or the microwave, a pinch of salt, and they're ready. James, an 80-year-old from Florida, used to snack on potato chips every night while watching TV. His doctor warned him about his weight, his blood pressure, and his rising blood sugar. He felt stuck. He loved the habit of snacking, but hated the way his body was changing. One day, his granddaughter handed him a bowl of warm edamame and said, "Just try these. You still get the snack, but your muscles will thank you." He laughed, popped the bean out of its pod, and was surprised by how satisfying it was. Slightly sweet, soft, and fun to eat with his hands. They made a simple swap. 3 nights a week, chips were replaced with a bowl of edamame. After 3 months, James didn't feel like a new person overnight. But he noticed his pants fit a little better, his energy in the afternoon was steadier, and his doctor was pleased with his numbers. Most importantly, he felt proud of himself for changing something that had felt too late to change at 80. Now, you might be thinking, this all sounds good, but isn't this kind of food expensive? Here's the surprising part. A bag of frozen edamame often costs less than a big bag of brand name chips. A tub of miso paste can last weeks, even months, because you only use a spoonful at a time. Natto, where available, is usually cheaper than a bottle of fancy supplements. When you compare the cost of these foods to long-term medications, hospital stays, or physical therapy after a fall, they start to look less like special items and more like smart investments. A few dollars here and there on foods that support your heart, bones, and muscles can save you far more in worry, pain, and medical bills later on. The small lesson from these 3 Japanese superfoods is this. You don't need a perfect diet to age with more strength. You just need a few powerful allies in your kitchen. Foods that quietly work for you in the background day after day. Even one new habit, like swapping chips for edamame or adding a small bowl of miso soup to breakfast, can shift the direction your health is heading. Food, however, is only half the story. In Japan, these superfoods are part of a bigger picture, a lifestyle where movement is gentle but constant, built into everyday life instead of squeezed into an hour at the gym. In the next section, we'll explore that side of the equation, how gentle Japanese-style movement can help your muscles stay alive, responsive, and ready to carry you through the years ahead. In Japan, strength after 70 doesn't usually come from lifting heavy weights in the gym. It comes from something softer, almost invisible, gentle movement all day long. There's a scientific name for this. Non-exercise activity thermogenesis, or NEAT. It sounds technical, but it's simple. NEAT is all the movement you do that isn't formal exercise. Walking to the store, hanging laundry, gardening, standing up to make tea, climbing a few stairs at home. For a lot of older Japanese adults, NEAT is the secret engine that keeps their legs alive and their balance sharp. Imagine 2 80-year-old men in a small town outside Osaka, Mr. Sato unlocks his old bicycle every morning. He rides slowly to the market, parks, walks the aisles, carries a small bag of groceries home in his basket. He pauses to chat with neighbors, bends to water his plants, and later that afternoon, he shuffles to a nearby park for a short stroll. At no point does he say, "I'm going to exercise now." He just moves. Meanwhile, an 80-year-old in an American suburb wakes up, sits at the kitchen table, shuffles to the couch, and waits by the window for a shuttle to pick him up for errands. The distance he could safely walk on his own has slowly shrunk over the years. So now a van drives him from door to door. It's safer, more convenient, but his legs are quietly paying the price. The difference between these 2 men isn't willpower or toughness. It's the total amount of gentle movement their days are built around. Mr. Sato's muscles get hundreds of tiny reminders. You still use me. I still matter. The American man's muscles, without meaning to or being told, you're not really needed anymore. For many Americans over 60, the idea of getting in shape feels overwhelming because we imagine loud gyms, complicated machines, and workouts that leave you sore for days. And yes, there's a very common trap here. I've seen so many people cite at 68. I'm going to hit the gym like I did in my 30s. They sign up, push too hard the first week, wake up stiff, in pain, maybe a little embarrassed, and then they quit. The conclusion becomes, I'm too old for this, instead of, that approach wasn't right for my body now. But gentle movement doesn't ask you to go back in time. It meets you exactly where you are. Think of it as micro-movement medicine. Tiny doses spread throughout your day. For example, a simple 5-minute morning routine can send a powerful signal to your legs and balance. Sit on a sturdy chair. Stand up slowly. Then sit back down 5 to 10 times, holding onto the table if needed. Stand facing the kitchen counter. Lightly hold the edge and gently rise up on your toes, then lower your heels 10 times. While waiting for your coffee to brew, march in place, even if it's just lifting your feet a few inches off the ground. 5 minutes. No gym clothes, no membership, just your body at home, and a quiet decision to keep moving. Helen, a 71-year-old from Boston, used to think she just wasn't an active person. After retiring, most of her days were spent in a chair, reading, watching TV, scrolling on her tablet. Her doctor warned her that her leg strength and bone density were dropping, and she was at higher risk for a serious fall. The idea of going to a gym terrified her. Instead of forcing herself into something she hated, she borrowed a page from the Japanese lifestyle. She made 2 simple changes. First, she invited a neighbor to walk with her 3 times a week. At first, they only circled the block once. Slowly, over months, that became 2, then 3 laps. The walk wasn't about burning calories. It was about conversation, fresh air, and gently asking her legs to keep showing up. Second, she started cooking one Japanese-inspired meal each week. Often a miso soup with tofu and vegetables, or a simple stir-fry with edamame. This meant more time standing, stirring, reaching for ingredients, moving around her kitchen instead of sitting and ordering takeout. 6 months later, Helen wasn't running marathons, but she could get out of low chairs without pushing on the armrests. She felt steadier in the shower. She no longer feared every crack in the sidewalk. When her granddaughter accidentally dropped a toy and it rolled on the couch, Helen surprised herself by bending down and getting it without thinking. Her exercise program was never written down on a chart. It lived in her walks, her kitchen, and the way she organized her day. The small lesson here is this: you don't need to move like an athlete to stay strong after 60. You just need to move like someone who intends to keep living in their own bodies, on their own terms, for as long as possible. Every step to the mailbox, every stand-up sit-down, every stroll around the block is a vote for your future independence. And when you combine gentle movement with smarter food choices, the effect multiplies. Your muscles not only get the signal to stay alive, they also receive the fuel they need to respond. That's why the very first movements of your day, the way you rise from bed, shuffle to the kitchen, and choose your breakfast, are so important. In the next part, we'll bring it all together at the table, and I'll show you how to turn your breakfast into a quiet, powerful ally for your legs. A simple, muscle-building morning meal that blends the comfort of American flavors with the wisdom of Japanese nutrition. For most Americans over 60, breakfast has quietly shrunk over the years. It's a light meal, the afterthought, a cup of coffee, maybe some orange juice, a slice of toast, or a small bowl of cereal. It feels simple, gentle on the stomach, but for your muscles, it's like starting the day on an empty tank. Here's the part most people were never told. Your morning is when your muscles are most ready to use protein to repair and rebuild. After a night of fasting, your body is listening carefully for a clear signal. Do we have enough to stay strong today? If breakfast is mostly sugar and starch, that signal never really comes. Your energy spikes, then crashes. Your legs stay tired. Getting up and moving feels harder than it should. Researchers at places like the Mayo Clinic have found that protein in the morning is especially important for older adults. It helps maintain muscle, supports balance, and even steadies blood sugar through the day. But most American breakfasts for seniors are the opposite of what aging muscles need. Plenty of carbs, very little protein. Michael, a 68-year-old from Texas, lived this story without realizing it. His breakfast was the same for years. Big mug of coffee with flavored creamers, a glass of orange juice, and 2 slices of white toast with jam. It felt healthy enough, not greasy, not heavy, and he liked how quickly he could make it. By mid-morning, though, he always hit a wall. His legs felt heavy when he walked up the stairs. Playing on the floor with his grandkids left him winded. When his daughter asked him to join her for a morning walk, he often said, "Maybe later, I'm just tired today." His doctor mentioned that his leg strength and balance were starting to slip and suggested more protein. But no one explained when it mattered most. Protein felt like a dinner thing. Chicken, steak, maybe some beans. He never thought of it as a breakfast priority. Then one day, his daughter showed him a photo from a trip to Japan. An older couple, probably in their 7-year-old, sitting at a low table with bowls of soup,
This fish is
egg,
delicious.
fish, rice, and
Yes,
vegetables.
it really is.
"This is their breakfast," she said. Michael raised an eyebrow. "That looks like Sunday lunch." She laughed and said, "What if we try a small version of this, but make it more you?" They started with a simple American-Japanese fusion breakfast. 1 tamago-style egg, a soft, slightly sweet scrambled or rolled egg. You can just scramble with a splash of milk and a pinch of sugar if you like. 1 slice of whole grain toast instead of white bread. A small bowl of miso soup from Instant Paste, easy to make with hot water. And his beloved coffee, but with less sugary creamer. It didn't feel like a diet. It just felt like a real meal. The first few mornings, Michael wasn't sure anything had changed. But about 10 days in, he noticed something small. He didn't need to sit down right away after breakfast. 2 weeks later, he could walk around the block with his grandkids and still have the energy to throw a ball in the yard. Getting off the couch didn't feel like a chore. It was just normal again. When we sat and looked back at what had changed, it wasn't that he'd become a different person. It was that breakfast had stopped being a sugar rush and started being muscle support. If you compare 3 typical breakfasts, you can feel the difference. The classic light American breakfast. Coffee with creamer, orange juice, white toast with jam. Tasty, familiar, but almost no protein. Your blood sugar jumps, then drops, and your muscles get almost nothing. The big but late American pattern. Tiny breakfast, quick lunch, then a huge dinner with most of the day's protein. Your muscles waited all day for fuel, and when it finally came, your body couldn't use it as efficiently, especially after 60. The Japanese inspired, strength-focused breakfast. An egg or tofu, maybe some miso soup, a piece of whole grain toast or rice, maybe a handful of edamame. The meal is still modest, but your muscles hear a clear message early. They're feeding you. Stay strong. You don't have to cook like a chef or suddenly love seaweed to benefit from this. A muscle-building breakfast might be as simple as scrambled eggs with a little shredded cheese, plus whole grain toast, Greek yogurt with nuts and fruit, or your usual breakfast plus a cup of miso soup or a side of edamame. The important part isn't perfection, it's presence, making sure there is real protein, real fuel, and not just caffeine and sugar. The small lesson here is this: if you're over 60, breakfast is no longer a throwaway meal. It's your first chance each day to tell your body, I still plan to use these legs. I still plan to walk, to stand, to live on my own terms. A stronger breakfast can mean stronger steps, steadier balance, and more energy for the people and moments you love most, like chasing a grandchild across the living room or taking an evening walk without fear of falling. And that leads to something just as powerful as food or movement. The people around you. In Japan, many older adults don't eat or walk alone. They share meals, join small groups, and stay woven into their communities. Their muscles are supported not only by protein and gentle motion, but by conversation, purpose, and connection. In the next part, we'll explore that often missing piece of American aging, how community, friendship, and a sense of belonging can quietly protect your strength just as much as any superfood or exercise plan. If you look closely at how people age in Japan, you notice something beyond food and movement. You see it in the faces at the market, in the small neighborhood shops, at the local temples. People in their 80-year-olds and even 90-year-olds who are still showing up for life, not just passing time. Many of them still work a few hours a week, volunteer, or help run community activities. Meanwhile, in the U.S., a very different picture is common. People in their mid-60s sitting alone at home,
Still maintaining a healthy
TV on
weight.
for company, days blending into each other. It's not that Japanese people never feel lonely, but the culture is building more chances for older adults to stay connected, to be seen, needed, and included, and that matters more than most of us realize. Harvard researchers and many others have found that loneliness doesn't just hurt your heart emotionally, it affects your whole body. Chronic loneliness has been linked to higher inflammation, weaker immunity, and faster loss of muscle and strength. Some studies suggest that people who feel deeply isolated lose function and mobility up to 3 times faster than those with strong social ties, even when they eat similar foods and have similar medical histories. Think about that for a moment. You can eat well, take your vitamins, and do your exercise because you do it all in silence with no real connection. Your body still pays a price. In Japan, there's a quiet answer to this built into everyday life. Small, local circles of community, what some people refer to as koi, or neighborhood clubs. They might meet in a community center, a small cafe, or even a temple hall. Older adults gather to cook together, do light exercises, sing, garden, or just talk. No one is parked in a corner. Everyone has a role, even if it's as simple as making tea or greeting people at the door. You don't have to live in Japan to create something similar. Linda, a 73-year-old from Seattle, found this out the hard way. When she retired, she thought she was ready for finally doing nothing. At first, it felt nice. Long mornings in pajamas, slow afternoons with the TV on, no alarm clocks. But after a few months, the silence got heavy. Friends were busy or had moved away. Her children lived in other states. Her husband
First,
had
lean
passed
forward,
years earlier.
shifting your weight over,
She
over
started
your firmly
sleeping
planted
later,
feet.
moving less, and ordering more takeout because cooking for one felt pointless. Her legs grew weaker. Stairs became stressful. When her doctor gently asked how often she saw friends, she brushed it off with a joke. But on the drive home, she realized she couldn't remember the last time she laughed with someone in person. One evening, scrolling on her tablet, she stumbled across a local community post. Japanese home cooking group, all ages welcome. They were meeting at a nearby church kitchen once a week. For 2
そうで
weeks,
すね。
she stared at the
若かった頃
announcement
を
and
思いは
thought,
しますね。
that's for younger people, or I'll just slow them down. Finally, one lonely Tuesday, she clicked, I'm interested. The first night, she almost turned back at the door. But inside, the atmosphere was nothing like a fancy cooking class. It was messy and warm. A retired dentist was chopping vegetables. A young mom was trying to keep her toddler from running off with a bag of rice. A Japanese-American woman in her 60-year-olds was calmly showing everyone how to make miso soup and onigiri rice balls. Someone smiled at Linda, handed her a cutting board, and said, would you mind slicing these scallions? Take your time. No pressure. No judgment. Just a small job that mattered. Week after week, she kept going. They practiced simple recipes, miso soup, rice bowls with tofu and vegetables, edamame snacks, even natto in different forms. Sometimes the food was perfect. Sometimes it wasn't. But something inside Linda was quietly repairing itself. She had to stand more, move around the kitchen and carry pots, and walk from counter to sink. She laughed with a batch of rice pudding. She traded stories with a woman her age who also hated eating dinner alone. One day, someone asked, hey Linda, can you show us how you make your favorite American soup? And she realized she wasn't just a guest anymore. She was part of the group. Over the next few months, her doctor noticed her balance improving. She needed fewer breaks when walking. Her mood lifted. When asked what changed, Linda didn't say miso or edamame. She said, I have people to cook for now, even if it's just once a week. Helen Keller once said, alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. It's a beautiful line, but it's also practical.
This radish is the
Alone,
freshest you'll
it's
find
easy to
all
say,
day.
Oh, your
I'll skip the walk
vegetables are
today.
always the best.
Or,
Thank you very
why
much.
bother cooking a decent meal just for me? Together, it's easy to say, I'll show up because they're expecting me, or let's try this new recipe together. The small lesson here is this. Your muscles don't just need protein and movement. They need a reason to keep going. Community gives you that reason. A walking buddy, a cooking group, a church circle, a book
And then he
club,
realized
a
the
neighbor you
badger
check
wasn't
on
a
every
badger at
morning.
all, but
These aren't just
Tanaka-san's
nice
old
extras.
dog.
Oh,
They're
dear,
part of your
that is
strength
too
plan.
funny.
And you don't have to wait for the perfect group to appear. You can invite one neighbor to walk twice a week. Start a tiny soup night where friends each bring one ingredient. Join or create a simple seniors meetup at your local library, church, or community center.
Yes, it smells
Ask your
amazing.
grandkids to help you learn
We
a
have
new
plenty
recipe
of
on video
daikon
chat
for the stew
and
as
cook
well.
together from afar. Each small connection is like another support beam under your life, holding you up when motivation slips or days feel empty. Now, we've talked about food, movement, and the power of community. The final question is, how do you turn all of this into something you can actually follow day after day without feeling overwhelmed?
And then he
In
said
the
he
next
couldn't
part,
find his glasses.
we'll put
Oh,
everything
Linda,
together
that
into a
is
gentle,
exactly what happened
realistic
last week.
30-day
You
strength
must tell that
rebuilding
story
plan.
again at the
The
gathering.
small, doable steps for busy Americans who want to stay independent, steady on their feet, and fully alive in the years ahead. For everything we've talked about so far, you might still be wondering, okay, but what do I actually do tomorrow morning? And the next day?
Look at that.
And the next
Perfect.
30 days?
You did a great job.
You don't need a perfect plan.
Yay, we did
You just need a
it.
gentle,
It looks yummy.
realistic one. Something that fits into a busy American life, not a fantasy schedule that only works in a health commercial. Think of the next 30 days as a test drive for a stronger future, not a lifetime contract. Let's break it into 4 simple weeks, each with small, doable goals. Week 1, wake your muscles up. This week is about noticing and nudging, not forcing. Breakfast upgrade, once a day. Every morning, add one source of protein to whatever you're already eating. Scrambled egg, Greek yogurt, a slice of cheese, a handful of edamame, or a cup of miso soup. No perfection, just presence. 5-minute morning movement. Right after breakfast, do a tiny routine. Sit and stand from a chair 5 to 10 times, using your hands if needed. Hold the counter and rise onto your toes 10 times. March in place for 30 to 60 seconds. Use technology as a gentle nudge. Set one reminder on your phone or smartwatch labeled. Move for 3 minutes, sometime in the afternoon. When it goes off, stand, stretch, or walk around the house. That's it. By the end of week 1, you're not trying to be fit. You're just showing your body that your
I know it
mornings,
looks a
your
little
legs,
different,
and your
but trust your
meals
mother.
still matter.
It's a modern
Week
twist on
2,
the old family recipe.
build a better
and it's
routine without
surprisingly
adding more
delicious.
stress. Now we add a little structure, still keeping things light. Protein at 2 meals. Aim for breakfast plus one more meal with real protein. Maybe that's an egg at breakfast and tofu or chicken at lunch. 3 short walks. Choose 3 days this week to walk 10 minutes. Down the block and back. Around the
I know it
grocery
looks a
store
little
parking
different,
lot.
but trust your mother.
Inside a mall
it's a
if the
modern
weather's
twist
bad.
on the old
If
family
you have a
recipe.
step counter or
and
a phone
it's
app,
surprisingly
let it
delicious.
count your steps. If not, the minutes are enough. 30-minute weekend prep. Pick one time, maybe Sunday afternoon, and spend just 30 minutes getting ready for the week. Boil some eggs. Cook a pot of rice or quinoa. Wash and portion frozen edamame into small bags. Chop a few vegetables for soup or stir fry. Those 30 minutes can save you from last-minute takeout. Or, I'm too tired. I'll just snack on chips later in the week. You're not doing meal prep like a fitness influencer. You're simply making it easier for your future self to eat like someone who
Go ahead,
wants to
put them
stay
in slowly.
strong.
That's it.
Week 3. Strength with a side of
Wow,
community.
look at it bubble.
By week 3, your body is starting to recognize a pattern. Real breakfast, tiny movements, short walks. Now we add connection. One shared meal or walk. Invite a neighbor, friend, or family member to walk with you once this week. Or share a simple meal you cook. Maybe miso soup, rice, and some edamame or eggs. You're not hosting a
Closely
fancy
now.
dinner.
Loop it once.
You're saying,
then twice.
let's try something that's
Like
good
that.
for both of us.
got it.
Good.
Japanese
That knot will
night.
hold.
Once a week, choose one dinner to be your Japanese-inspired evening. Miso soup from instant paste. A serving of fish tofu or lean
It
chicken.
fills my heart to
Rice
see you.
or whole grains.
I'm so
A side
happy
of
to be
vegetables.
here with everyone.
Light, simple, but intentional. Gnaw the shokiku and all the wisdom you've been learning. Keep your 5-minute movement and short walks going. These are now part of your identity. You're someone who moves, even gently every day. Week 4. Turn habits into a personal way of life. The final week is about ownership.
Oh,
You're no
you really
longer
shouldn't have.
trying a program. You're
That
choosing what
sounds
fits
wonderful.
you. Review
We
what
miss
actually
you too,
worked.
darling.
Did the egg at breakfast feel easy? Did miso soup feel comforting? Did walks with friends feel good, but solo walks feel like a chore? Pay attention. Keep what feels sustainable. Drop what doesn't. Strengthen your system with small tools. Keep a notepad or simple checklist on the fridge. Protein at breakfast? Walk today? Glass of water? Use a water reminder app or just set 3 alarms labeled drink a glass of water. If you like tech, let a step counter quietly track your progress without judgment. Prepare for pushback, even from people you love. Sometimes, when older adults start changing, their children or grandkids get nervous or skeptical. Mom, what's this weird suit? Dad, are you sure it's safe for you to walk that much? Grandpa, you don't need to prove anything anymore. When that happens, it helps to have a calm answer ready. Something like, I'm not trying to be 30 again. I'm trying to stay independent, so I'm less of a burden to you later. These small changes help me feel steadier and more alive. You don't need their approval to take care of yourself. But sometimes, when they understand why you're doing this, they go from doubting to cheering you on. William's story. Proof that it's not too late. William, a 77-year-old from Florida, thought his strong days were over after a bad fall in the bathroom. He needed help with almost everything. A home aide came several times a week. He couldn't shower safely on his own. Sitting down and standing up were exhausting. He felt embarrassed, angry at his body, and quietly scared. His doctor suggested physical therapy, small nutrition changes, and a 30-day plan similar to what you're reading now. At first, William rolled his eyes. What's 30 days would do at my age? But he agreed to try. The first week was humbling. Slow chair stands, shaky legs, miso soup that tasted strange. But he stuck with it. By the end of 30 days, he could stand from his favorite chair without someone pulling him up. By 8 weeks,
水仙で美味し
he
いで
could
すよ
shower
ね
on his own,
楽しみだわね。
dress
い
himself,
つもありがとう
and even drive to meet an old friend for a short fishing trip. He didn't become a superhero. His arthritis didn't vanish. But he regained something priceless, his sense of dignity and control. When people asked what changed, he didn't say, I found a miracle cure. He said, I stopped giving up on the days I still had left. The small lesson of this 30-day plan is simple. You don't have to rebuild your whole life. You just have to nudge it, meal by meal, step by step, week by week, in the direction of strength instead of slow decline. Your body, even at 60, 70, or 80, is still listening and responding to what you do. And this isn't just about the next month. It's about what kind of life you want to live in the years that follow, and what kind of legacy you want to leave behind. Because in the end, your strength isn't only for you. It's for the people who love you, the stories you still want to share, the memories you haven't made yet. In the final part, we'll talk about the legacy of strength, how taking care of your body now can become a gift to your children and grandchildren, and how Japanese ikigai, or purpose, can help you wake up each day with a reason to keep going. By now, you've heard a lot about protein, miso soup, gentle walks, and tiny choices that protect your strength. Underneath all of that, there's a deeper question. What and who are you staying strong for? In Japan, there's a word for that deeper why. Ikigai, it loosely means a reason to get up in the morning. For some, it's a job. For others, it's a grandchild, a garden, a hobby, a group of friends, or a simple daily ritual like making soup with family. Ikigai doesn't have to be big or dramatic. It just has to feel meaningful to you. When you think about aging in America, the conversation often stops at not being a burden. People say things like, I don't want my kids to have to take care of me, or I don't want to end up in a home. Those feelings are real and understandable. But here's a gentle shift in perspective. Staying strong isn't just about avoiding being a burden. It's about actively becoming a gift. Someone who can still share stories, wisdom, traditions, and time instead of only needing help. Maintaining your independence. Being able to dress yourself, cook a simple meal, walk safely, get into a car. Doesn't just feel good for you. It changes the emotional weight your family carries. Instead of worrying constantly, they get to enjoy you. Instead of every visit being about caretaking, more of it can be about connection. I think of Thomas, a 92-year-old from Boston. His hands are shaky. His knees aren't what they used to be. But every Sunday, without fail, his 10-year-old grandson comes over. And every Sunday, they do the same thing. They make miso soup together. They stand side by side at the stove. One small body, one fragile but determined one. Thomas moves a little slower these days, but he still measures the miso paste, shows his grandson how to stir gently, and explains why they add tofu or seaweed. They taste, adjust, and sit down to eat. One afternoon, as they sat at the table, his daughter snapped a photo of them laughing over a pot that almost boiled over. Later, she showed it to Thomas and said, Dad, you know he's going to remember this for the rest of his life, right? Not the gifts, not the money. These Sundays, this is what will stay. Thomas smiled and said quietly, that's why I do my leg exercises. Not for me, for this. His ikigai is in perfect health, or living forever. It's one boy, one bowl of soup, one more Sunday at the table. You may not cook miso soup. Maybe your thing is teaching a grandson how to fix a fishing line, showing a granddaughter your favorite hymn, passing down your chili recipe, or simply being the person who always calls on birthdays. Whatever it is, your strength is the bridge that lets you still do those things, not just think about them. So let me ask you gently, when your family looks back one day, how do you want them to remember you? As a grandparent or parent who is always too frail to leave the chair, or as the one who, even at 80 or 85, still shared stories at the table, still walked a little way down the street with them, still showed up with a sparkle in their eye? There is no shame if your body has already been through a lot. Life happens. Illness, injuries, losses, hard years. You're not starting from a blank page, but from this page forward, you still have power. With every breakfast, every short walk, every choice to reach out to a friend, you are writing the next chapter of how you will live and how you will be remembered. The small lesson here is this. Strength after 60 isn't about chasing you. It's about protecting your ability to love in practical ways. To hug standing up, to climb a few steps to sit in the bleachers, to stir a pot on the stove, to answer the door yourself when family comes to visit. And you don't have to change everything at once. You just have to begin. So tomorrow when you wake up, try the simple act of legacy. Make yourself a nourishing breakfast. Maybe even a small bowl of miso soup and egg or some edamame alongside your usual toast or coffee. Then pick up the phone and call someone you care about. A friend you haven't spoken to in a while. A grandchild. A neighbor. Ask how they are. Tell them you're making some changes because you want to be around and present for as long as you can. That one bowl and that one phone call may not seem like much, but over time, these little moments become your story. The story of someone who chose not just to grow older, but to grow older with intention. Your body at 80 or 85 will feel those choices. And your family years from now will feel them too. Every time they remember the smell of your kitchen, the sound of your footsteps, and the way you kept showing up right to the end.